She cheated with the guy next door while I was working late, then gaslit me and blamed me when I confronted her. I moved out and got divorced. What happened after left her traumatized and alone. I was carrying her favorite dinner, an overpriced diamond ring, and this stupid grin I couldn't wipe off my face. And in less than an hour, I would hear her moan another man's name. I should have stayed late at work like I told her I would. That was the plan. She thought I was stuck under deadlines again, chugging coffee at my desk, trying to claw my way out of a pile of emails and spreadsheets. What she didn't know, what I was so proud to keep secret, was that I'd finished early for once. I wrapped it all up fast, signed off, and drove halfway across the city just to get this ring she once pointed at in a magazine. Silver band, she'd said. Looks cleaner than gold. And diamonds, I don't need a big one, just something that catches the light. I remembered that line like it was scripture. Silver band, shiny diamond. Something that would sparkle on her soft, fair hands, the ones I used to kiss every night before bed. I spent too much on that thing. I'm not even gonna lie. I had been saving up, and even then it stretched me thin. But it felt right. It felt worth it. She never asked for much, even though she came from money. She stuck with me when all I had was ramen, secondhand furniture, and a one-bedroom apartment with paint that peeled if you looked at it too hard. And here I was, finally able to give her something that screamed, "You deserve everything." I stopped by that Korean barbecue place she loved, the one that always messed up the spice levels, but she'd eat it anyway. I remember holding the bag in the passenger seat like it was made of gold. I even played her playlist on the way home, the one she made for road trips, full of indie love songs and sad piano ballads. God, I was excited. I remember laughing out loud as I turned the corner to our street. It was that dumb, giddy laugh. Like, man, she's gonna freak out when she sees this ring. She probably thought I forgot our anniversary. I didn't. I was gonna slide that box across the table while she ate her kimchi stew and just watch her fall in love all over again. But when I got home, the door was wide open. I froze, halfway up the steps. My first thought was, shit, did someone break in? I walked in slow. No lights. No noise. I called her name once. No answer. Maybe she went out. Groceries or something, I thought. Perfect. Gave me time to set the table, dim the lights, get the ring ready. I walked over to the counter, placing the food down. Then I took the ring out of the glove box where I had hidden it and opened the box. Damn, it sparkled even in the hallway light. I pictured her face when she'd see it. I was still smiling when I stepped closer to the wall that separated our apartment from the neighbors. And then I heard it. Moaning. Loud. Shameless. At first, I thought, no way. No way that's her. It couldn't be. But I knew that voice. Knew every tone, every breath. I'd fallen asleep to it for years. And the second voice? That was the guy next door. Chad. Lived alone. Always flirted a little too hard when she was carrying groceries. My hands started shaking. I don't remember when the box fell, but I heard the thud. Diamond ring, face down on the floor. I stood there like a goddamn statue. Couldn't cry. Couldn't even blink. And then, I walked out. Didn't scream. Didn't storm in. I just left. Sat in my car for, I don't know how long. Staring at the dashboard like maybe it would make sense eventually. When she came home a few hours later, I pretended I was asleep. She kissed my cheek. Told me she missed me. I almost laughed. I didn't sleep that night. Just stared at the ceiling, her breathing soft beside me. My heart was in my throat. I kept thinking, say something. Ask her. Blow it all up. But I didn't. I was scared. Scared I'd get it wrong. Scared she'd deny it so well I'd start to believe her. The next morning, I made coffee. She came into the kitchen in one of my shirts like she always did. Sat down, smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I couldn't take it anymore. I asked, is there something you want to tell me? She blinked. Sipped her coffee. No. What? I stared at her. I came home early yesterday. I heard you. Her face didn't change. That scared me more than anything. No shock. No panic. Just a slow tilt of the head. You must be confused, she said, almost gently. I'm not. Sam, she said, and her tone shifted, colder, sharper. I think you're working too hard. You're paranoid. Maybe you should talk to someone. I felt my chest tighten. Don't gaslight me. I know what I heard. That's when she stood up, eyes blazing. You're accusing me? After everything? You're the one who's never home. God knows what you do out there. You think I don't notice how you look at other women? Or the way you smell when you come back late? I was stunned. What the hell are you talking about? You think I don't know? You think I don't see the signs? You're the cheater, Sam. You're the liar. And don't you dare try to flip this on me. You've been sexually neglecting me for months. You touch me like I'm some chore. Do you even want me anymore? That was the moment I realized I wasn't going to get the truth. I could beg, cry, scream, bring evidence. None of it would matter. She had already rewritten the story in her head. And I was the villain now. So I didn't fight. I didn't try to win. I packed my things. The essentials. Walked out the same door I walked in with dinner and a dream. Didn't look back. Didn't cry until I crossed the state line. I don't remember driving. I just remember sitting in the car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. The sky had gone dark by the time I left the apartment building, but I didn't go far. Just anywhere. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want anyone asking questions. I didn't want to hear myself say it out loud. I parked in some random lot behind an old hardware store, engine off, phone face down on the passenger seat. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Hours, maybe. Just sitting there in silence, staring out the windshield at nothing. And then it hit me. I cried. Not those neat, movie scene tears. No. I cried like my lungs were collapsing. I cried until my throat was raw, until I couldn't breathe. I cried like a man who had built a future brick by brick, only to find out the foundation was quicksand. I kept hoping it was some sick joke, or a mistake. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I didn't hear what I thought I heard. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe, just maybe, she'd call, or text, and say she was sorry. That she panicked. That she made a horrible, horrible mistake. I kept looking at my phone, waiting for it to light up, refreshing the messages like something new might appear. Eventually, exhaustion took over. I guess my body just gave out. I fell asleep right there in the driver's seat. When I woke up, the sun was already rising. My neck ached. My shirt was stuck to my skin with sweat. And the first thing I saw when I reached for my phone was the message. It was from her. Just one line. I'm done with you. No explanation. No regret. No apology. Just that. Like I was some unwanted job application or an expired coupon. 3 weeks later, the divorce papers were signed. She didn't even show up in person. Her lawyer handled it all. I signed where they told me to sign, heart numb, mind hollow. I found out through a mutual friend, who didn't even know I didn't already know, that she married Chad a few days after. Chad, the guy from next door. The one who had a new girl over every month before she moved in with me. The guy whose only career was mooching off whoever was dumb enough to let him. So that was it. My high school sweetheart. My wife. My future. Gone. Traded me in like a busted appliance. The worst part wasn't losing her. It was how she made me question every single memory I had with her. Our late-night calls in high school. The way she clung to me the day we graduated. The way she cried when I proposed. Was that all fake? Was I the only one who ever meant any of it? I didn't eat much for weeks. I stopped talking to friends. My voicemail was full. I deleted social media. Everything just felt too loud. But time, it keeps moving. Even when you're stuck. Healing didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly. In moments. The first time I laughed at a dumb joke my coworker made. The first time I slept through the night without dreaming of her. The first time I walked past a jewelry store and didn't feel like I was going to puke. I started pouring myself into work. Not as an escape. Okay, maybe at first, but eventually because I realized I was good at what I did. I started saying yes to little things. Grabbing a coffee with someone from the office. Going to the gym. Picking up groceries that weren't just instant noodles and cereal. And then, one day, there she was. Maya. She worked in the finance department. Quiet, smart, always had headphones on. I think I barely noticed her until one day she brought her niece to the office because her sitter bailed. This little girl, messy curls, big eyes, ran right up to my desk and asked if I had any candy. I didn't, but I gave her the last piece of gum in my bag and told her it was magic gum. She believed me. Maya smiled like I just told the best joke in the world. That was the beginning. Maya didn't try to fix me. She didn't ask for the whole story all at once. She just made space for me to exist. And slowly I did. We got married a couple years later. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet beach, close friends, laughter, real smiles. And then there was Lily. Our daughter. 5 years old now, and already smarter than me. She says the funniest things. She's got Maya's eyes and somehow my stubbornness. She's the reason I wake up smiling. Life rebuilt itself. I won't lie and say I never thought about her, my ex. Sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet, I wonder where she is. If she's happy. If she thinks about me. But mostly, I just hold my daughter close. And I'm thankful for the detour. Because it led me here. I thought that night broke me. Maybe it did. But maybe it also set me free. I won't lie. Those first few months after the divorce were brutal. I wasn't eating much. I'd sleep through alarms and wake up still exhausted. I'd walk around the apartment and catch myself reaching for 2 coffee mugs, 2 sets of keys. I'd hear a car pull into the lot outside and, for one stupid second, think it might be her coming back to apologize, to say she made a mistake. That somehow, all of this was just some twisted dream. But she never came. And eventually, I stopped expecting her to. What really saved me, or maybe just kept me from falling apart completely, was work. I threw myself into it. Buried every ache under spreadsheets, emails, coffee-fueled late nights. I started arriving early and leaving late, not because I had to, but because I couldn't handle the silence of going home. There's a special kind of loneliness that hits you when you sit on a couch meant for 2 and realize it's only ever going to be yours now. But there was someone else at the office who noticed. Maya. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud or attention-seeking like someone I used to know. She was just warm in this quiet, grounded way. Always brought her own lunch. Always stayed 5 minutes after meetings to help clean up. And the weird part? She never tried to fix me. Never offered advice I didn't ask for. Never acted like I was a charity case. She just listened. One night after a long shift, we both happened to leave the building at the same time. It was raining. I didn't have an umbrella, just my bad luck and a busted windshield wiper waiting for me in the parking lot. She laughed and offered to drop me home. I almost said no, but I'm glad I didn't. That drive changed something. We didn't talk much. Just some music, headlights on wet roads, and the soft hum of tires over puddles. But I remember feeling not alone. And after everything I'd been through, that was huge. We started hanging out more after that. Casual at first. Lunch breaks. Shared projects. Late-night texts about random memes or TV shows. Then dinners. Then walks. Then one day she showed up at my door with soup because I had the flu, and I looked at her and thought, God, how long have you been holding me together without even trying? She never made me feel like I had to forget my past to be with her. She didn't flinch when I told her about the divorce. About the betrayal. About the ring that never made it to the finger it was bought for. Instead, she asked me if I still had it. I said yeah, it was in the bottom drawer of my desk. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. She smiled and said, well, keep it. Let it remind you how far you've come. And I did. Fast forward 2 years later, we were married. Nothing fancy. Just a simple ceremony with a few close friends, some homemade cupcakes, and a playlist Maya made that somehow knew the exact rhythm of our story. And then came Lily. God, Lily. I didn't even know it was possible to love someone that instantly. The moment she was placed in my arms, all of it, the cheating, the lies, the heartbreak, the shame, all of it felt like another lifetime. Like it happened to a different version of me that no longer existed. Being a dad, it changed me. Made me softer in ways I didn't expect. More patient. More present. More forgiving. Not for her. Not for the woman who tore my heart out and left me bleeding in a parking lot. But for myself. For the mistakes I made. For the parts of me I had to abandon just to survive. Of course, Maya and I had our challenges. The first year was rough. Adjusting to shared responsibilities, figuring out how to parent when we were both running on 3 hours of sleep and lukewarm coffee. We had fights, some loud, some quiet, some that ended in slammed doors and some that ended in long, exhausted hugs in the kitchen while the baby cried in the other room. But we never made each other feel small. We never weaponized love. And that made all the difference. I remember one night, Lily had a fever, and we were both up at 3 a.m., pacing around with her in our arms, passing her back and forth like a tiny, sweaty relay baton. And in between the panic and the baby Tylenol and the cold compresses, Maya looked at me and whispered, "You're such a good dad." I don't think she knows how much I needed to hear that. It made me realize that love isn't about grand gestures or fancy rings or big houses with picket fences. It's about showing up. Every day, even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when your heart still has old bruises that haven't fully faded. We built something real, something honest. And for the first time in years, I felt safe. So safe, in fact, that I barely even thought about my ex anymore. I couldn't remember the last time I wondered what she was doing, who she was with, whether she regretted anything. She had become quiet in my mind. like a closed book on a shelf I no longer reached for. That is, until the night I saw her again. And everything cracked open. I wasn't supposed to be out that night. That's the thing that keeps looping in my head. How random it all was. I had stayed late at work because Maya had taken Lily to her parents for the weekend. Just a little visit. I told her I'd catch up on some project stuff, maybe clean the garage like I'd been promising. But the truth? I just wanted a quiet night. A slice of pizza. Something dumb on TV. Silence. Not the sad kind, just stillness. The roads were nearly empty. It was one of those nights where everything felt slow. Even the air. Heavy and still. I was turning down a side street I normally avoided. The one near the old abandoned rail yard, because the main road was blocked for some construction. I remember cursing under my breath about detours. Then I saw them. Dogs. 3 or 4 of them, snarling and circling something. Or someone. I couldn't tell at first. It just looked like a bundle of rags collapsed on the ground. But as I got closer, headlights brushing across the scene, I saw an arm flinch. Thin. Pale. Terrified. I pulled over without thinking. Heart pounding. I grabbed the half-eaten bag of chips from the passenger seat, opened the door, and shouted to get the dog's attention. Tossed the chips far enough to lure them away. They scattered, snapping at each other, distracted just long enough. She didn't even look up at first. Just sat there, curled into herself, arms over her head like she thought the world was still biting. I said, "Hey, you okay?" And she looked up, and it hit me like a freight train. It was her. I didn't recognize her at first. How could I? The woman I once dressed like royalty. Flowing satin, soft perfumes, bracelets that caught the light just right on her fair, glowing skin, now stood barefoot in rags, face sunken, eyes ringed in deep shadows, skin dull and bruised from the wind and God knows what else. A pack of stray dogs had circled her, snarling, growling, their teeth flashing, and all I saw in that moment was fear in her eyes. Not the kind of fear that passes, the kind that lives in your bones. I parked without thinking, slammed the door behind me, and grabbed a stick from the ground to chase the dogs off. She didn't even scream, just stayed still, arms shielding her face until the last one ran. And then she looked at me, and her lips trembled. It's you, Sam." I stared at her, my brain catching up with what my heart had already figured out. It was her, my ex-wife. I'd imagined this moment so many times, her knocking on my door, full of regret, maybe dressed in something designer, but with sad eyes. I pictured myself saying something cold, walking away like she once walked away from me. A fair ending to an unfair story. But none of that happened. Because what stood in front of me wasn't some polished version of karma. It was a woman whose whole life had caved in. And I couldn't leave her like that. I just couldn't. "Come on," I said softly, after a long pause. "You need help." She nodded slowly, tears already falling. She didn't ask where we were going. She just followed me to the car like a ghost. Maya opened the door before I could even knock. She looked between me and the wreck of a person behind me, her eyes wide, but she didn't say a word. Just stepped aside, led her to the bathroom, brought her fresh clothes, and started heating up leftovers. God, I love that woman. My ex bathed in silence. She was in there for a long time. I almost thought she'd passed out in the tub. When she finally came out, wet hair clinging to her face, wearing Maya's hoodie and a pair of my sweatpants, she looked more human, but still hollow, like someone who hadn't just lost everything, but had everything ripped out of her with a knife. She ate slowly, holding the spoon like it might vanish any second. Then, she looked up. "Why did you help me?" Her voice was barely there. I shrugged. "Because no one deserves to be eaten by dogs." A weak smile flickered at her mouth, then died. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't say anything. She wiped her eyes, took a shaky breath, and said, "Do you want to know what happened?" Part of me didn't, but I nodded anyway. So she told me. "All the things I left you for," she began, her voice hollow. "They were never real. Chad, he was just a mirage. He made it sound so big, this life we'd have. Fancy cars, wild nights, no pressure, no boring routines. Just passion and fun and spontaneity. I bought it all. And for a little while, it was like that. I could feel Maya watching quietly from the hallway. I knew she wasn't angry, just protective. I stayed sitting across from my ex, my hands laced tightly in front of me. But then things changed. Fast. Her voice wobbled. He started asking for money. First small things. Drinks, gifts. Then bigger. Said he had debts. He maxed out my cards, sold my jewelry, even the ones you gave me. I tried to stop him, but he'd say I owed him, that he saved me from you. I clenched my jaw. I wanted to leave. I even packed once. But when I said I was done, he laughed. Said I wouldn't survive without him. That nobody else would want a used-up girl who betrayed her husband and family. And maybe I believed that. She looked down at her lap. My parents cut me off. They warned me, but I didn't listen. So they stopped taking my calls. I had no one. Her fingers gripped the fabric of her sleeve like she was holding herself together by threads. A week ago, he told me he planned a surprise dinner, said he wanted to make things right, that he booked a special place far outside the city. I thought maybe this was it. Maybe he was turning around. She took a breath. It rattled. We drove for hours. Trees. Dirt roads. No lights. When I asked where we were, he smiled. That smile I used to think was charming. But this time, it made me feel sick. She looked up at me then, tears streaming freely. He stopped the car, pulled me out, and then he took out a knife. My heart thudded in my ears. He pressed it to my neck, told me to give him my purse, my jewelry, everything. I was frozen. Then he said, "Give me the keys, or I'll take more than that." I handed them over. He yanked my phone out of my coat pocket and smashed it against a rock. She was shaking now. Then he said, "Thanks for the ride," got in the car, and drove off. Left me there. No phone, no bag, no money, just me, in the cold. I couldn't breathe. For 3 days, I walked, slept in fields, huddled under abandoned sheds, ate garbage. I was chased off by store owners. I tried to flag cars, but they swerved. Nobody wants to pick up someone who looks like a ghost. Her voice broke. I was going to die out there. Then she looked at me. But then you showed up. Silence hung between us like thick smoke. She stood slowly, pulled a wrinkled piece of paper from her pocket, and placed it gently on the table. "I won't stay. I know I've already taken too much from you. This house, this life, it's not mine anymore. I just wanted to say thank you, and that I'm sorry." She turned to leave. I didn't stop her. I watched her walk to the door, then down the driveway, her silhouette swallowed by the morning mist. When she was gone, I opened the note. "Sam, I deserve to suffer for what I did to you. But even after everything, you showed me kindness. The kind I didn't earn. I will never forget that. You were always enough. I just couldn't see it, and by the time I did, I had nothing left. Don't hate me. Just forget me. I'll try to start over. Somehow. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Goodbye. Emily." I folded the paper and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. Not because I wanted to hold on to her, but because one day, when Lily is older and she asks me about heartbreak, forgiveness, and what it really means to move on, I'll have something real to show her. That night, I went to bed and wrapped my arm around Maya. She stirred a little, whispered, "You okay?" I nodded into the space between her neck and shoulder, and whispered back, "Yeah, I am now." I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. Just quietly grateful. Grateful for the path that broke me. Grateful for the people who helped rebuild me. Grateful for the woman beside me, and the little girl down the hall whose laughter healed places I didn't even know were broken. And maybe, just maybe, a little grateful that I'd seen how far I'd come. Because sometimes, closure doesn't look like revenge. Sometimes, it just looks like peace.